for the fourth straight night. Iran fired more missiles at Israel's major cities. Israel's Iron Dome defense system responded, but some of the missiles did get through. At least 5 Israelis were killed overnight. Video shows some of the damage that was done. Israeli warplanes struck more targets in Iran overnight, and this morning, Israel claims its planes can fly freely over much of the country.
The American consulate is just down there. As you can see, it's in a densely populated area that was the scene of a devastating attack overnight. Behind me, buildings have been destroyed, windows blown out, some reduced to rubble, shops also have been demolished. It's been a rough night.
A direct hit right in the heart of Tel Aviv. The night sky lit up with explosions as Israel's air defense system intercepted one Iranian missile after another. The strike destroyed the homes of people living in this densely populated neighborhood. Not far from Tel Aviv, in the city of Petah Tikva, at least 4 Israelis were killed after a missile slammed into this building, bringing the number of deaths since last week to at least 24. But the toll Israel has inflicted on Iran is far higher. 224 killed, including women and children, as well as the ongoing assassination of top military commanders and nuclear scientists. Thousands of civilians are fleeing the capital, Tehran. They are not used to being under attack, and we understand the regime is concerned it could spark unrest. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has already hinted at regime change. Israel has said the purpose of the war is also to cripple Iran's nuclear capability. When pressed on why they acted now, Netanyahu had this to say.
They were marching very quickly. They would achieve a test device and possibly an initial device within months, and certainly less than a year.
The Israeli military has gained air superiority over the skies of Iran. In 4 days, it's carried out multiple attacks on Iran's military leadership and nuclear program.
Meanwhile, Israeli citizens, residential buildings, and infrastructure are under attack from very large Iranian missiles.
Overnight, missiles landed in Tel Aviv, killing at least 5 people. The IDF says Iran has launched hundreds of ballistic missiles. Most have been intercepted, but some managed to hit Israeli cities, including Bat Yam, over the weekend.
Behind me is just one of the locations where Iranian missiles have hit. It sheared one apartment building in half, destroyed a building beside it, and the damage goes for blocks around. The missile contained nearly 1,000 pounds of explosives.
9 were killed in the attack, 3 of them children, and nearly 200 injured.
But our spirit is strong and it will win. We know that our enemies try to target civilians, but this is why starting tomorrow we're going to rebuild this area. We have 75 buildings that took a hit.
I tell you, these are very large missiles that are landing here to cause such damage like this. Iran has openly called for the annihilation of Israel, of the United States, of all Western ideology. Israel had to do a preemptive strike in order to defend our civilians. Now, what we're targeting is strategic military targets. What they're targeting, like you see behind me in the various sites across Israel, is civilian infrastructure, residential communities.
Speaking from the site at Bat Yam, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned of what might happen if Iran is not stopped.
Imagine what would happen if Iran had nuclear weapons that would fall on all Israeli cities. Imagine what would happen if Iran had 20,000 missiles. Not one, but 20,000 of them. That is an existential threat.
U.S. President Donald Trump supporting Israel's operations, but still hoping Israel and Iran can reach a deal.
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens.
The IDF says it's making history. In just 4 days, in what some are comparing to the miraculous Six-Day War in 1967, Israel has targeted the vast array of Iran's nuclear infrastructure, including enrichment facilities in Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan. The IDF says most of Iran's military commanders have been eliminated. and Mossad agents on the ground have taken out Iranian air defenses, ballistic missiles, and nuclear scientists. Meanwhile, social media videos from inside Iran show Iranian citizens cheering the strikes, hoping it will bring down the dictatorship that's ruled for 46 years.
I call upon the Iranian people, this is your moment. This is your moment to stand up, to remove the mullahs if you can, and the world will stand behind you.
Opposition sources claim some Iranian leaders have already fled the country. In Israel, the spirit remains resolute.
Iran has vowed to keep retaliating to Israeli strikes, which began on Friday.
Here are warnings for your upcoming days. Leave the occupied lands, because definitely they will not be habitable for you in the future.
Well, China's UN envoy condemning Israel's strikes on Iran, calling in an intensification, and claims concerns over what will come of Israel's actions. A new report from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute finds China has the fastest growing nuclear arsenal in the world. Meanwhile, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has thoughts over the conflict and which country is best suited to facilitate negotiations. Watch this.
Who is the voice in the world that can negotiate some type of agreement in this? Who holds the moral authority? Who holds the ability to do that? Because we are not seen as a neutral actor, and we maybe never were. Now I ask who that is. And I mean, consistently over and over again, we're going to have to face the reality. It might be the Chinese. And that goes against everything they say they're trying to do in terms of the balance of powers.
China has the moral authority to fix this conflict, according to Tim Walz. Joining me now is Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow Gordon Chang. Gordon, good to see you. Your reaction to this?
Well, you know, if you don't want to be called a communist, and Tim Walz says he's not one, then he shouldn't sound like a communist, because only a communist or a communist sympathizer would say that China has the moral authority. And by the way, China is not the neutral party, as Tim Walz said, because we know that China has been all in on Iran's side in this war. It's been providing everything but troops at the front. Tim Walz is wrong about that. And if people want to wonder why he sounds like a communist, because he very well could be one.
Yeah, I mean, he spent so much time in China, and I wondered if, in fact, what happened overnight was evidence that we do see China and potentially Russia supporting Iran in this Israeli conflict. Is that what you believe?
Oh, well, certainly. Since October 7th, we have seen China's elevated commodity purchases of Iranian crude oil. China takes more than 90% of Iran's exports of that commodity. But we've also seen Chinese weapons go to Iran and to all three of Iran's main terrorist proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthi militia. And also Iran's own weapons have Chinese components in them. There's diplomatic and propaganda support. So China has been fully behind Iran. And so when Tim Walz says that they might be seen as a neutral party, I mean, that's just wrong. I mean, he's entitled to his opinions, of course, but as Donald Rumsfeld told everyone, he's not entitled to his own facts.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's propaganda, and you just wonder if, in fact, he actually believes that, or if he's being told that by his Chinese overlords. What about this activity in the South China Sea? Is China now trying to involve itself or get more belligerent in the face of this Israeli-Iran upset?
Yeah, I think that the most dangerous flashpoint in the world where there is not actually a war is the South China Sea, and it's right off the Philippine shores, because China has been moving its vessels into that area and engaging in belligerent activity, including ramming Philippine ships, which it's been doing now for all of this year. Yes, Taiwan may be their primary target, but right now, the most belligerent activity is against the Philippines. We have a treaty to defend the Philippines, and so this brings us in as well. I afraid that one of these incidents that China provokes is going to spiral into conflict.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that President Trump is trying to
bulk up the manufacturing sector in America, bring supply chains to America, because he recognizes this chessboard here, Gordon. And I wonder if ultimately the answer is we do need to decouple from the Chinese economy.
Yes, we certainly need to do that because China has been hostile. It's made very clear that it's going to use its position in supply chains to strangle the United States. They've done that with their rare earths. They've been actually threatening to do that with pharmaceuticals.
Military protection. Families that fled attacks by the armed group Boko Haram last month are hoping they can rebuild their lives. Fighters in Nigeria's Borno state have repeatedly carried out raids on the town of Mate, leaving thousands of people with little option but to seek safety elsewhere. The Nigerian government has been trying to contain Boko Haram for 16 years. The group says it's fighting Western influence and wants to impose its version of Islamic law. The conflict began in the northeastern state of Borno in 2009 with an armed rebellion against the Nigerian government. The group and its breakaway ISIL affiliate, Islamic State in West Africa Province, want to create an Islamic State that also includes parts of neighboring Cameroon, Chad and Niger. But a new front has opened up in the northwest, where the Nigerian military is battling another IS-affiliated group in Zamfara State. Military campaigns have pushed back armed groups over recent years, but in the past few months, attacks have intensified, putting security forces under pressure. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu came to power 2 years ago, promising to strengthen security. But attacks by armed groups, kidnappings for ransom, and violence between herders and farmers have continued. The UN says thousands of people have been killed, and at least 2 million have been forced from their homes during years of unrest. Those who've been displaced say they want their lives back and are looking to leaders to fulfill their promises.
On the fringes of Sambisa Forest, villagers play a dangerous game of hide and seek with Boko Haram fighters. A few brave individuals sneak back into the village at sunrise, and they leave after a few hours until the next day.
We can't sleep in our houses. We used to run to the bush and hide because they used to attack this village in the evening or in the night.
Locals say this is the third attack in a month. Now they say they've had enough. 5 other villages were hit in a similar fashion by Boko Haram fighters.
Now with the recent attacks, residents are concerned that the area is slowly receding back to lawlessness.
Usaku's husband was killed as they fled to the nearest town.
The attacks have become so common. Today they will kill 20, the next day it will be 30. The day my father was killed, 29 other people were murdered. Whenever they arrive, they tell us, "You'll cry rivers of tears, because we are going to kill all the males, old and young."
And we hope you were getting a very different images of how Americans are feeling about the state of our country. Hundreds of anti-Trump rallies around the country brought out millions of Americans. In the meantime, the president was outside the White House. He was presiding over a military parade on the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary, and it also happened to be his 79th birthday.
From Seattle to Philadelphia, Dallas to Detroit, nearly 2,000 cities and towns across the country were packed with protesters Saturday.
Down with deportation!
All voicing frustration with the Trump administration's second-term agenda. While most protests were peaceful,
we just heard shots, everyone's running.
In Salt Lake City, Utah, demonstrators fled in fear after a protester was shot and killed by a security member.
Our victim was not the intended target, but rather an innocent bystander.
Law enforcement says the security member was firing at a different man who allegedly pointed a rifle at protesters. Police took the man with the rifle into custody. In Los Angeles, law enforcement cleared out demonstrators with horses, flashbangs, and tear gas after they say protesters threw objects. Our colleague Adam Yamaguchi was there.
We're seeing that playing out right here. They are trying to push the crowd and disperse the crowd. The police have declared this an unlawful assembly and have moved in.
It caps a week of demonstrations against sweeping immigration raids at farm fields, meat factories, and car washes. Despite President Trump announcing he would walk back raids in the farming and hospitality industries, there is still widespread fear within immigrant communities. This raid took place Saturday at a swap meet. near Los Angeles.
To the intense flooding that swept through parts of West Virginia over the weekend and is now blamed for at least 5 fatalities. That same fast-moving storm killed at least 13 people in San Antonio last week.
It was a rough weekend for so many here in West Virginia. I want you to take a look behind me here. In many areas, roads remain closed and there is still debris everywhere. Some spots got as much as 4 inches of rain in just half an hour. This morning, parts of West Virginia are under a state of emergency as a deadly flash flood kills at least 5 people, including a 3-year-old. State officials say 3 people are reportedly missing. In Fairmont, a rear wall partially collapsing during the floods. Water gushing from the roof. Cheyenne Sullivan escaping with her 1-year-old daughter.
We almost got stuck in there. I had to move everything out from in front of the door and swim out of the apartment down the hallway pretty much. It was 4.5 foot of water.
I literally woke up to a catastrophe. I have a baby on the way. I have a toddler. I have no clue what to do now.
Water running through the window. Bottom floor was washed out first.
Outside, cars totaled, personal belongings now scattered. Just a few blocks away, residents treading through murky, knee-deep water, pushing vehicles out of parking lots. At Wheeling University, floodwater quickly rising, pushing massive debris down the stream.
The waters rushed through the northern part of the state Saturday night, killing at least 5 people and destroying homes like that of 71-year-old George McCormick's.
That's the house. He said it was just a matter of minutes and his house was gone.
We spoke to his stepson, Joseph Moore, who helped McCormick pick through the debris of the house he was born and raised in.
When I found him, he was up on top of the hill. He was able to get his dog out. He was sleeping in his vehicle with his dog. So it was quite the scene, actually. It's indescribable. The only thing left was his foundation there.
The same storm system had earlier devastated parts of San Antonio. Officials there have identified 13 people who were swept away by floodwaters last week. Among those is 61-year-old Rudy Garza. He was on the phone with his wife while on his way to work.
He said, "Water's coming in my car." And she said, "Can you reverse?" And he said, "No, you don't understand. It's like an ocean's coming at me." They both said their "I love yous," and she said the call faded away.
Tonight, San Antonio, Texas is reeling. Authorities desperately searching for survivors after police say a series of slow-moving storms left at least 5 people dead. Overnight floodwaters overtaking the highway. Rescuers moving in. Some areas getting over 6 inches of rain by dawn.
It's not for real. It's like make-believe.
Angel Richards says her husband, Stevie, was driving to work around 5 a.m. when he called her from the car.
So it happened really, really fast. By the time he called and said the car was stalled, and now it's floating. And then I can hear these things hitting up against the car.
She eventually made her way to this creek.
Right by the orange. Yeah.
Even though it was flipped over and still partially submerged, Richards telling us she's confident that's her car. But she did not know what had happened to her husband.
They were searching the car and said, "This is a Cadillac." And I was like, my heart just dropped because that's my car.
The city's fire department says there were at least 65 water rescues.
Authorities tell us a dozen people who managed to escape from vehicles that were in that creek wound up clinging for their lives high up in those trees.
There have been other floods here in the last couple weeks. What made this worse?
Well, we've had a lot of rainfall in the last week and probably 2 to 3 separate events. So the ground was saturated. So I think that just compounded the flooding.
And immunity status because of the deadly measles outbreak around our country. Roughly 1,200 infections have already been recorded this year so far. Dr. Siegel, I'm reading that 95% of these individuals ages 5 to 19 were not vaccinated, or we don't know their vaccine status. So why are we seeing more of an outbreak this year than we have in the past?
That's exactly why, because there's more and more pockets around the country of people that are likely unvaccinated. And the vaccine stops the spread of this. That's the only tool we really have. It's 93% effective with just 1 shot, 97% effective with 2. Many of these cases are not reported. I believe we've probably gone over 2,000 or 3,000. We're going to have the most since the year of 2000 when we eliminated measles from this country.
This is what it looks like.
These moments are hard to watch. 1-month-old Phoebe Staley struggling to breathe as her mother Donnie Ray tries to keep her awake.
Phoebe, you have to breathe, honey.
Her father, Mayo, recording the painful scene.
You can hear her alarms going off. So she's in distress.
How often was that happening while she was in the hospital?
Probably every 15, 20 minutes or so.
And I'm 43 years old and I ain't never been that scared in my life.
In March, Phoebe was hospitalized with whooping cough, the highly contagious respiratory illness that causes aggressive coughing fits. Also known as pertussis, it can be life-threatening, especially for babies.
Some's not hooked up right, and if I lay her back, she starts choking.
The Staleys say Phoebe spent more than a week in this Topeka, Kansas hospital.
We busted out of the ICU. We're back in our regular room.
So far this year, the CDC reporting nearly 12,000 whooping cough cases, an almost 75% increase from the same time last year, as vaccination rates among children are slipping slightly. Today, Kentucky officials announcing 2 infants there died from whooping cough in the last 6 months, saying neither the infants nor their mothers had received the recommended immunizations.